Chosen one, this is not a message you stumbled upon by chance. This is not encouragement. This is not inspiration. This is instruction. There are seasons when God speaks softly and seasons when He speaks with weight. This is a weighty moment. What you are about to hear is meant to guard what God is building in you, to protect what is forming beneath the surface, and to preserve your future from interference you cannot yet see. The coming season is delicate, strategic, spiritually charged. And because of that, God is calling you not to speak more, but to become more discerning. Listen carefully. The power of holy silence. There are moments when heaven speaks, not by adding words, but by removing them. Moments when God's instruction is not say more, but guard what you carry. This is one of those moments. Silence is not weakness. It is not insecurity. It is not retreat. Silence in this season is strength under control. There are things God has placed in you that are still forming, ideas still breathing, assignments still fragile, victories still gathering momentum beneath the surface, and what is forming requires covering before it requires commentary. Not everything that excites you needs an audience. Not everything God reveals needs to be repeated. Not everything sacred survives exposure. We live in a world addicted to announcement. Every thought is posted, every plan is broadcast, every step is explained. But God does not move according to noise. He moves according to order, and order often begins in quiet. Silence is how God limits access. When God is preparing something weighty, He narrows the circle. He reduces visibility. He removes unnecessary voices, not because He is hiding you in shame, but because He is protecting you from interference you are not yet equipped to fight. Information creates access. Access creates influence, and influence in the wrong hands can become disruption. The enemy does not need authority over you if he can gain insight into you. This is why wisdom is not about knowing what to say. It is about knowing when not to speak. Some of the pressure you feel right now is not opposition, it is restraint. God is placing His hand over your mouth not to silence your identity, but to preserve your assignment, because timing is part of obedience. You are not being called to disappear. You are being called to discern. Not every listener is aligned. Not every question is innocent. Not every curiosity deserves clarity. Jesus Himself did not answer every question. Sometimes He walked away. Sometimes He remained silent. Sometimes He responded with a question instead of an explanation. Silence was never confusion. It was authority. Silence teaches patience. Silence teaches observation. Silence teaches trust. When you speak less, you begin to see more. Patterns become visible. Motives surface. People reveal themselves not by what they say, but by how they respond to your boundaries. Holy silence creates space for God to work without interruption. This is not a command to isolate yourself from wisdom or godly counsel. It is a call to steward revelation carefully. God does not give secrets to be broadcast. He gives them to be matured. What God is doing in you does not need validation. It needs preservation. There will be a time to speak. There will be a time to testify. There will be a time to explain what God has done. But wisdom knows the difference between a season of unveiling and a season of incubation. And right now, heaven is whispering the same instruction repeatedly. Protect what is forming. Limit access. Walk quietly.
When speaking too early slows destiny. There is a difference between revelation and release. God may show you something long before He ever intends you to speak about it, and misunderstanding this gap has caused more delay than disobedience ever did. Some doors didn't close because God said no. They closed because words arrived before strength did. In Scripture, Destiny is often threatened not by enemies, but by conversations. Joseph's story didn't unravel in the pit first, it unraveled at the dinner table. The vision was real, the dream was divine, but the timing was wrong, and the audience was unprepared. Truth shared without discernment attracts resistance. When you speak too early, you invite people into a process they were never assigned to steward. And not everyone who hears your vision wants to see it fulfilled. Some hear potential and feel threatened. Others hear growth and feel exposed, not because they are evil, but because they are human. God never said every revelation requires an explanation. There are seasons when obedience looks like silence, because silence keeps you out of unnecessary warfare. Some battles are not attacks from hell, they are consequences of premature exposure. You weren't under spiritual assault, you were under information overload. Words can create pressure before capacity is formed. This is why God often allows misunderstanding, because explaining yourself too early trains you to seek approval instead of alignment. God is more interested in forming your character than clarifying your reputation. You don't owe everyone context. You don't owe everyone updates. You don't owe everyone access. The urge to explain often comes from discomfort. Silence feels awkward. Misunderstanding feels unfair. Being unseen feels unsettling. But God uses these tensions to wean you from people's opinions and anchor you in His voice. Jesus did not clarify Himself to everyone. He taught crowds, but He explained parables only to a few. Revelation was selective, not because God plays favorites, but because maturity determines access. Some people cannot carry what you are becoming without mishandling it. Speaking too early also exposes you emotionally. When you talk before you're rooted, you open yourself to discouragement. Opinions become heavier, doubts multiply, and suddenly something God planted in confidence begins to shrink under scrutiny. Silence protects faith. Faith grows best where it is not constantly questioned. God allows private confidence before public conviction. He strengthens belief in hidden places so it doesn't collapse in public ones. Timing is spiritual intelligence. What you say may be true, but truth has seasons. What you feel may be valid, but not every feeling needs a platform. Wisdom knows when restraint is obedience, not fear. The world rewards transparency. God rewards discernment. When you learn to wait before speaking, you gain authority without effort. People may not understand you, but they will sense weight. And when the time comes for release, what you say will not need defense. It will carry evidence. There is power in withholding what God is still forming. There is safety in waiting until strength catches up with vision.
Hidden seasons are not empty seasons. There is a sacred tension in being unseen. It feels like stillness on the outside, but beneath the surface, everything is moving. Roots are spreading, strength is forming, structure is being built where no one is clapping. Hidden seasons are uncomfortable because they challenge how we measure progress. The world equates movement with visibility, but God measures growth by depth, and depth is never developed in public. Nothing valuable matures in a rush. Seeds do their most important work underground. No light, no recognition, no confirmation that anything is happening. Yet in that darkness, life is being organized with precision. Timing is being calibrated. Strength is being established. What you cannot see is often what matters most. When God hides you, He is not sidelining you. He is concentrating you, removing distractions, reducing noise, eliminating shortcuts.
This is where discipline replaces excitement and obedience replaces applause. Hidden seasons dismantle false confidence and rebuild true dependence. In quiet places, God exposes motives. He reveals why you want what you want. He separates calling from ego, ambition from assignment, because what is built for display will not survive pressure, but what is built for purpose will endure weight. This is where patience is refined, where pride is confronted, where faith learns to stand without witnesses. Many people abandon hidden seasons because they misinterpret silence as stagnation, but silence is often God's way of ensuring that when you rise, you don't fall under your own weight. Jesus spent most of his life in obscurity, not because he lacked power, but because power requires preparation. Authority without formation becomes dangerous. God builds character before platforms, integrity before influence, depth before exposure. In hidden seasons, comparison loses its grip. You stop measuring yourself against timelines that were never yours. You stop chasing validation from people who aren't qualified to affirm you. Your identity becomes anchored in obedience rather than outcomes. This is also where intimacy with God deepens, without crowds, without noise, without performance. Prayer becomes conversation, not presentation. Trust becomes personal, not theoretical. Hidden seasons teach you how to hear God without external confirmation. And when God decides to reveal what he has been forming, it will not require explanation. The fruit will speak. The strength will be evident. The stability will be undeniable. What feels like delay is often reinforcement. You are not wasting time. You are being fortified. What God is building in you now is designed to last longer than applause, stronger than opposition, and deeper than surface success.
Separation is alignment, not loss. There comes a moment when the crowd thins without warning. Conversations fade, invitations slow down, familiar voices grow distant. And if you're not careful, you'll interpret this shift as rejection, when it is actually redirection. God is not removing people to punish you. He is rearranging access to protect purpose. Separation is one of the most misunderstood tools God uses. We often associate it with abandonment, but in the kingdom, separation is strategic. It is how God creates focus. It is how he preserves momentum. It is how he keeps unnecessary influence from contaminating what he is forming. Not everyone can go where you are going, not because they are bad, but because they are not assigned to that season. Some relationships are instructional, some are transitional, few are foundational, and wisdom knows the difference. When God begins to elevate responsibility, he reduces noise, he limits opinions, he narrows counsel. This is not isolation, it is alignment. You are being positioned among people who can handle the weight of what you carry without mishandling it. Loss feels painful because familiarity feels safe, but safety is not the same as destiny. Holding on to people out of nostalgia can quietly delay growth. God removes certain connections not because they are harmful, but because they are no longer helpful. What once supported you may now restrict you. Jesus often withdrew from crowds, even from those who admired him. Intimacy with God required distance from distraction. And when he chose 12, then 3, then 1, it wasn't favoritism, it was function. Access is about capacity. Some people love you, but they cannot understand you. Some support you, but they cannot steward you. Some celebrate you, but they cannot walk with you. God sees what you cannot. He knows who will pull you backward when pressure increases. He knows who will mishandle information. He knows who will drain what you are meant to build.
Separation also reveals attachment. It exposes where identity has been tied too tightly to people instead of purpose. When relationships shift, God is often inviting you to anchor yourself more deeply in Him. This season asks you to trust God's pruning. Pruning is painful because it feels like loss, but it is always preparation for growth. Nothing is removed without intention. Nothing is cut without future fruit in mind. When you stop fighting separation, peace follows. You begin to understand that alignment brings clarity. Focus returns. Prayer deepens. Vision sharpens. God is not shrinking your world, He is refining it. And in that refinement, you will discover that what remains is what truly supports where He is taking you.
Silence sharpens discernment. There is a kind of clarity that only arrives when you stop speaking, not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally make room to see. Noise distracts discernment. Constant explanation blurs perception, but silence creates contrast, and in that contrast, truth becomes visible. When you speak less, people reveal more. You begin to notice who respects your boundaries and who resents them, who honors your quiet season and who pressures you to perform, who supports you without information and who only stays close when they have access. Silence does not confuse mature hearts. It unsettles insecure ones. This is one of the reasons God invites you into quiet seasons, not just to protect what He is doing in you, but to expose what is happening around you. When you remove words, reactions become the language. Some people grow uncomfortable when you stop explaining yourself because they were never interested in understanding, only in controlling the narrative. Others grow distant because they fed on access, not connection. Silence separates intention from interest. Discernment is not suspicion. It is perception refined by patience. It is the ability to sense alignment without confrontation, to observe without accusing, to recognize patterns without panic. In silence, God trains your spiritual eyesight. You notice tone instead of titles, consistency instead of compliments, fruit instead of promises. People often tell you who they are, not through confession, but through behavior. Silence gives those behaviors space to surface without interference. Jesus often responded to traps with quiet, not because He lacked answers, but because silence disarmed manipulation. He allowed others to expose themselves through their persistence, their pride, their impatience. Silence shifts power. When you stop over-explaining, you stop overextending. You no longer leak energy trying to manage perceptions. You conserve strength. You become grounded, present, observant. This is where wisdom matures. Silence also teaches you to hear God more clearly. When external voices quiet down, internal clarity rises. Prayer becomes less about speaking and more about listening. You begin to sense conviction instead of confusion, direction instead of noise. Discernment is born in stillness. God often whispers, not shouts, and you cannot hear a whisper in chaos. Silence tunes the heart. It aligns the spirit. It sharpens intuition shaped by truth. This is not about withdrawal from community. It is about restraint in communication, about choosing when to speak instead of feeling obligated to respond. You are not rude for protecting your peace. You are not distant for guarding your heart. You are not arrogant for choosing discretion. Silence is not avoidance, it is awareness. And as discernment sharpens, you begin to move differently. Decisions become cleaner. Relationships become clearer. Boundaries become natural instead of forced. What once required explanation now requires no words at all. Silence teaches you who to trust without asking a single question.
Authority is calm, not loud. There is a quiet confidence that does not announce itself. It enters the room without demanding attention, yet everything shifts when it arrives. This is the nature of true authority. It does not compete. It does not convince. It does not chase recognition. It rests.
The world has trained us to believe that power must be proven, that influence must be defended, that credibility must be explained. But God operates differently. In the kingdom, authority is revealed through restraint. Those who know who they are do not need to shout. When you are secure in God's calling, urgency disappears. You stop rushing to be understood. You stop fighting every misunderstanding. You stop reacting to every opinion. Calm replaces chaos, not because pressure vanished, but because trust took its place. Jesus stood silent before accusations that could have altered public perception. He did not interrupt. He did not clarify. He did not correct the narrative. Heaven spoke for him. Silence was not surrender. It was sovereignty. Authority does not argue with insecurity. It allows time to reveal truth. God is not threatened by delays, and neither should you be. When your confidence is anchored in Him, you no longer feel compelled to defend what He promised. Defensiveness often signals fear of loss. Calm signals assurance of outcome. There is a maturity that comes when you realize God does not need your help to prove His faithfulness. Your role is not to manage perception, but to remain obedient. God handles reputation better than you ever could. This is where composure is forged. When pressure rises, calm becomes your witness. When opposition speaks, restraint becomes your strength. When confusion surrounds you, stillness becomes your posture. Authority listens more than it reacts. You don't have to respond to every provocation. Some invitations are distractions disguised as urgency. Some battles are beneath the assignment you carry. Silence helps you distinguish between what deserves your energy and what deserves your absence. Calm authority also creates safety. People trust those who are not easily shaken. They follow those who are not driven by emotion, but guided by conviction. Stability attracts alignment. This is why God refines temperament before increasing responsibility. If everything provokes you, everything controls you. But when your spirit is anchored, external noise loses influence. You become led, not pushed, directed, not pressured. Calm is not passivity, it is discipline under authority. It takes strength to remain still when misunderstood. It takes confidence to wait when rushed. It takes faith to trust God with outcomes you cannot control. But this is where leadership is born, not in volume, not in reaction, but in quiet assurance. And when God releases you to speak, your words will carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they are grounded. If this message resonated with your spirit, remember this. What God is building in you does not need noise to be powerful. It needs faith, obedience, and trust in His timing. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Stay still when God says wait. Move when He says go, and trust that what He has promised will unfold exactly when it should. If this message blessed you, like this video to help spread the word. Comment below and share what spoke to your heart or what season you're walking through right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more faith-filled messages that will strengthen, guide, and encourage your walk with God. May God bless you, keep you, and lead you forward in faith.